And now, the Truth Bomber with Washington Lincoln. Rasputin, Canada's president, world leader, and Russian spy? You heard that right. Canada's president is technically a world leader. But could this man, tolerated by Canadians from coast to coast to coast, secretly be Vladimir Putin's man on the inside? Tonight on The Truth Bomber, we explore a story of espionage, treason, and murder. Time to drop some truth bombs. The evidence we've gathered against President Putin is alarming. First and foremost, there's his name, Rasputin. As Canadian a name as the culinary creation he probably stole it from, but no easier to stomach. Say it a little slower though. What's it sound like? Rasputin, 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 as in the notorious Russian monk. Coincidence? No such thing. An anonymous source has come forward to share the following information.
Yeah, his actual name was Rasputin, but a good friend of mine he met thought he said Rasputin, and he just went with it from there on. Best Canadian name ever, Pooty would always joke. Well, ain't that a hoot? You can change my accent in post, right? Right?
Sometime after this interview, the witness was found murdered in their Canadian residence. When pressed for a response, the coroner's official statement noted, beaten to death by Reverend John Green in his living room with a wrench. Following the coroner's game of Clue, he explained how our source was killed. Another anonymous source claimed, I have proof Rasputin killed Mickey Richard to shut him up. That witness was also found murdered soon after his interview. PNN has been in touch with a third source which claims, I have it on the highest authority that Rasputin is innocent of all wrongdoing in the deaths of Mickey Richard and Doug Graham. Full disclosure, this source comes from 24 Sussex Drive, Ottawa, Ontario. Significance? Probably none. Both victims were reported to have died of cocaine overdoses. On the surface, sensational. But less so when you pause to consider that President Putin was elected almost exclusively on his mandate to legalize cocaine in Canada. But he didn't stop there, no. Next, he disbanded the police and Canada's military and opened up prisons. And what's more, he's running for his 5th term in office on a mandate to abolish capitalism. Whether directly or otherwise, those debts are on President Putin's hands. All this scandal, yet the Canadian public keeps electing this joker into office. The man's either politically bulletproof, or the voting populace is high out of their minds. Oh wait. They even acknowledge and celebrate the scandals in parodies of famous songs. Here's a cover of Looney and the Toonies' Rah Rah Rasputin. Hey, 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 rah, rah, Rasputin put our nation on a high. He watches hockey and drinks lots of beer. Rah, rah, Rasputin, Russian spy or stand-up guy. Super Canadian, so he'd appear. Canadian, so he'd appear, indeed. The lazy alcoholic that he is. But he's not even that patriotic for his hockey obsession, considering Canada's actual national sport is lacrosse. Joke's on him for not doing his research. But by now, you're wondering, why does any of this matter to you? Truth is, President Putin has destabilized his nation so badly, he's opened up the gateway to anarchy in America. We'll take our entrenched racial divides, political deadlock, and rampant gun violence over Canada's brand of living any day of the week. We've tolerated the Canadians' borderline socialism for the better part of 2 centuries for one reason. They're a good subservient land buffer between us and Russia. And also Keanu Reeves. This is worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis, people. Before long, Russia will take advantage of Canada's messy state, probably through a hostile takeover. And then they're on our doorstep. Then things might calm down somewhat as we initiate diplomatic relations. To declare war? Probably. I'll bet this was President Putin's plan from his first day in office. By now, even the deaf should see through this guy. Exhibit? I've lost track. There's photos of him shaking hands with Vladimir Putin. Date? Long before his first campaign for office. We've also uncovered this clip, which appears to show President Putin's accent slipping. President Putin is a good friend of mine, I can assure you, based on our meetings, that what many see as Russian aggression is in fact a grand show of culture. And haven't we, as a society, grown beyond dismissal of global practices different to ours? Check your xenophobia at the door, and let Mother Russia be Mother Russia. If that term is offensive to any Russian Canadians, I apologize. But the point stands, eh? If you are convinced of Putin's deficit of character already, be aware that he may also be a sexual predator, a homophobe, although his husband vehemently denies that accusation, and a racist. I'm just your average Canadian white guy, and I am very sorry for that. But I want you to know that I work on behalf of all Canadians. Nobody there brought up skin color, so did he talk about it just to flex his privilege? When asked for a comment on the above scandals, Putin said, "All press is good press." Sober up and get this fool out of office, Canada. For your sake, the sake of the USA, and maybe even for the world. And if you won't clean up your own mess, America might have to do it for you. Same as always. My name is Washington Lincoln, and after these truth bombs, consider your mind blown. If you like this broadcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, clicking that like button, leaving a comment, or checking out our Patreon page, linked down below. Good night, and may God, or whichever deity you believe in, bless the United States. Till next time.